Alright, what's up, guys? So, Fact Faction has uploaded a video titled 10 Dark Stories Behind the Making of Beloved Movies. Yeah, there's some movies out there where it's like some dark stuff doesn't happen. I know, like, something that catches my attention with movies is like all the deaths that will happen surrounding the movie. Like, I know, and it's like it's more of a comedy movie, but I feel like a lot of people have died from that movie. But Friday, for an example, because the dad on there, Debo, it was the dad of the dude with the bike. His like they're the dad on there when he was like, because all right. So if you guys remember that scene in Friday when Red had went up to Debo and was like, "Hey, I want my bike," and then Debo gave him like the strongest uppercut of all time, and then the guy's dad came up out the car and was trying to like drag him back in the car, telling him like get back in the car. That guy passed away. Bernie Mac passed away. Who else passed away from that movie? Ezel, he passed. There was a lot of people behind that movie where I was like, dang, bro, like, what all these people from Friday passing away for? It's like, bro, what you got going on? But no, there's some other movies, Poltergeist. I know there's some like crazy things behind that movie, but yeah, man, there's some movies out there where they got some bad stuff going on behind the scenes and stuff. But that's just something that catches my attention. I don't know what overall would be talked about in this video. But guys, if you haven't, make sure you go subscribe to Fact Faction for more videos like this. And then that being said, let's get into this video. I like it. I liked it.
By the time a movie becomes a classic, we feel like we know
The
everything
Shining
there
has
is to
some
know
dark
about
stories.
it. After all, we're familiar with the plot.
That movie
we know
is.
who the actors are, and we can even repeat some of the lines.
I heard some
However,
crazy stuff about that.
sometimes the most interesting stories from the
yep.
silver screen come from behind the scenes. From foul food to appalling accidents, here are 10 dark stories behind our favorite movies.
I might have seen some of these movies. Titanic got some dark stories?
On August 9th, 1996, a portion of the cast and crew of the movie Titanic was finishing up their last day of filming near Halifax, Nova Scotia, before heading south to Baja, Mexico. Major stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet were not present, but other notable figures in the cast and crew were, including actor Bill Paxton and director James Cameron. Since the shoot was scheduled to run from dusk until dawn, at midnight, the cast and crew took a break to celebrate one last meal together. A chowder, which has been identified by various sources as seafood, lobster, or clam, was provided along with other options. Whichever variety it was reportedly quite delicious, with many returning for second helpings. The meal finished and everyone went back to work. Marilyn McAvoy, an artist on the set, noticed how confused everyone around her appeared to be. No one seemed able to do their job or function properly.
Oh, I've seen some of that video. I remember seeing that video. I was like, there's no way that was on Titanic, because that was like, that video then started going viral to, I think, I was like, what? It was like on an episode of Ridiculousness. I was like, why would they be showing like old clips of like stuff that happened on the Titanic set? I'm like, that wouldn't make no sense, but dang, that is crazy though. Like, there's some child there that got people sick. I'm like, dang, did somebody put something in it and things? Like, what y'all got going on?
To deteriorate, with people rolling on the floor, laughing, crying, and throwing up. Actor Bill Paxton related his experience to Entertainment Weekly, sharing, "One minute I felt okay. The next minute, I felt so goddamn anxious I wanted to breathe into a paper bag."
Oh, somebody spiked that stuff with some weed. Like, I don't think you can like spike something with weed. Like, it'll put more. Well, no, I think like, cause no, I've heard like when people they'll put like a pill or something. But something was definitely put in that food.
Cameron, fearful that there was a deadly neurotoxin in the fish causing the trouble, rushed to the bathroom to make himself sick. His quick thinking ultimately saved him from a hospital stay. When the less fortunate members of the cast and crew were finally taken to a hospital, the culprit was identified as phenylcyclohexyl piperidine, PCP, also known as angel dust. It is an illegal street drug that causes hallucinations.
Speaking of Friday, I'm like, yeah, anything angel dust. I'm like, after watching that movie, I'm like, hey, I just know angel dust should never be put together, because when it's put together, you're gonna lose yourself. So Yeah, I'm like, that's crazy. I knew there was something like hallucinate or, you know, some drug related stuff put into it, because I was like, you ain't gonna be doing that because some food. If anything, I feel like if the seafood is bad, you probably would be like sick and things, and might, yeah, probably be throwing up and all that stuff. So stomach issues and things. But yeah, you ain't gonna be like how they were carrying on.
Dissociation, and aggressive behavior, among other side effects. The numbers vary, but it is estimated 60 to 80 people were exposed to the PCP on set. Halifax police were unable to determine who spiked the chowder that night, and the case was officially closed in 1999, citing a lack of suspects. Cameron has one theory, telling Vanity Fair, "We had fired a crew member the day before because they were creating trouble with the caterers. We believe the poisoning was this idiot's plan to get back at the caterers." Disgruntled former employees aside, this certainly isn't what we think of when people mention drugs in Hollywood. We think we'll skip the chowder for now.
Yeah. That's crazy. The Shining? Dang.
We always expect horror movies to leave us on the edge of our seats, but we don't anticipate the behind-the-scenes action to be quite so horrendous. In the late 1970s, renowned director Stanley Kubrick began working on a film adaptation of Stephen King's novel, The Shining. The plot follows a family whose patriarch, a struggling writer, has taken a job as the winter caretaker at a secluded lodge in Colorado. As the story progresses, the couple's son has psychic visions that begin to worsen as his father's mental health unravels. Casting up-and-coming actress Shelley Duvall as his leading lady before he'd even met her, everything seemed to be going swimmingly. Unfortunately, once the shooting began, things quickly unraveled. Kubrick treated Duvall in an increasingly abusive manner, cutting her lines without warning, isolating her from other people, and forcing her to wait long periods before shooting her scenes. He'd berate Duvall about any choices she made for her character, while simultaneously praising her co-star Jack Nicholson.
Wow.
Screaming at her over small mistakes, he'd encourage cast and crew members around her to join in on the psychological abuse, urging them not to pity or support Shelley in any way.
That's crazy.
Kubrick would make the actors shoot scenes over and over, and the iconic baseball bat scene was reshot a record-breaking 127 times.
Wow.
By the end, Duvall's hands were shredded from wielding the bat. Her voice was hoarse from screaming, and her eyes were swollen from crying. To garner an authentic reaction from her, Kubrick would keep Duvall in the dark about Nicholson's choices, so she never quite knew what would happen next on set. What we see on screen is a truly terrorized woman.
That's why she didn't, like, I'm saying, like, that's crazy to be acting like that towards somebody. It's like, that's definitely sounds like some stuff where he's like, oh, she's the woman, she gonna listen to anything that I say. I'm like, bro, y'all gotta start having more respect for people, bro. That's crazy. I did not know. Now I feel like when I watch this movie, now I'm gonna have like a different outlook on it and stuff. Like, dang, that's crazy how it's like they treating her like that. And it's like, bro, because I don't think she really did do a whole lot of movies afterwards. Like, compared to like Jack Nicholson and stuff, yeah, she didn't really do a whole lot of movies. I think I remember seeing her in Popeyes. And I'm trying to think, have I seen her? I might have seen her in I feel like there's another movie I might have seen her in too, but yeah, it's like I ain't really see her in a whole lot. And it's all like, yeah, it's like you got people carrying on like that with you and stuff. I wouldn't want to do no movies either. I'm like, sir, what you got going on? Because that's the type of stuff that make me walk off set. I'm like, no. Sue me, take me to court, send me to jail, I don't care. But it's like, you ain't gonna be talking crazy to me and stuff and then have me going through all these like record breaking scene takes to do. I'm like, no, bruh, we doing this scene, we getting it right. If I mess up, we'll do the scene over again. If I say my lines correctly, if I do everything correctly, we ain't gonna be going back and forth doing it and stuff. Like, no, bruh, what you got going on? That's crazy.
Much of her work in the film was physical, involving running, screaming, and crying, all while holding the child actor Danny Lloyd. As Duvall tells it, Kubrick doesn't print anything until the 35th take. 35 takes running and crying and carrying a little boy, it gets hard. Her health began to decline from the stress, with her hair falling out in clumps. To make matters worse, the film took over a year to complete, keeping Duvall in this nerve-wracking predicament for quite some time. In the end, author Stephen King was openly critical of Kubrick's adaptation, especially his treatment of Duvall. In 2016, she appeared on Dr. Phil, where she opened up about her mental health struggles. Though we can't blame Kubrick for all of Duvall's present problems, the director certainly didn't help.
Yeah, I remember because people they were going off on Dr. Phil for that interview and stuff, because she wasn't in like a good state and things, and so it's like my thing is this, like, he trying to like ask her questions like, oh well, what, like, no, it's like, I really don't be watching Dr. Phil unless they have somebody like more so like in a funny way like on there. But it's like when it be somebody that's obviously going through some stuff, yeah, I think like if anything, it's like, you just gotta like kind of sit there and like talk with them and help them out and things, rather than like, oh, let me get my ratings up and stuff. So, but that's just how I feel. I don't know, maybe he had a different outlook on it, but anyways. Top Gun? I've never seen one or two of
In
Top
1985,
Gun.
during the filming of Top Gun, a frightening aerial accident occurred. The film follows the journey of a Navy fighter pilot named Maverick as he trains to become an elite pilot at the Top Gun Naval Fighter Weapons School. Art Scholl, an accomplished stunt pilot and aerial cameraman, was flying off the coast of San Diego County, California, to capture footage for the movie. After completing an upright spin as directed, Scholl inadvertently entered into a flat, inverted spin. Ironically enough, in the film, this is the kind of spin that results in Goose's death and Maverick's near death. Two co-workers, mechanic Kevin Kamer and pilot Chuck Wentworth, were also in the air in a separate plane, keeping a lookout for any air traffic. The pair observed Scholl entering.
I'm like, this stuff, it got me, because I'm like, if they don't talk about it in here, they should do a part 2, because no, there's the one movie, the Twilight Zone movie, bro. If they don't talk on it in here, bro, they gotta do a part 2 and they gotta mention it. There's a scene in there where, like, when you know what actually happened, where there's like a part, because like how Twilight Zone is when they tell their stories and stuff. So there's one particular story, but there's a scene in there that happened where I was like, hey, when I found out about that scene, I was like, oh, that's, in my opinion, that's like one of the darkest, if not the darkest thing that I've ever heard about with the movie. So
the spin around 4,000 feet. And at 3,000 feet, he radioed, "I have a problem." Still in trouble at 1,500 feet, Scholl radioed again, saying, "I have a real problem." Unfortunately, Scholl was unable to recover, and his aircraft crashed into the Pacific Ocean roughly 5 miles off the coast of California. By the time Kamer and Wentworth reached the area where Scholl's plane should have been, there is no sign of him.
Oh, wow.
The National Transportation Safety Board concluded that the flat inverted spin caused Scholl to become disoriented, losing control of his aircraft. Others speculate that equipment must have malfunctioned since Scholl was highly skilled and had recovered from inverted flat spins in the past. While some debris was retrieved, the entirety of the plane, along with Scholl's body, was never found.
Wow.
The movie, released in 1986, was dedicated to his memory.
I guess like that's just how it was back then, where, even with the Twilight Zone movie, it's like there's stuff that happens and then they're like, oh, well, we still gotta go through with the movie. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could go through with a movie if I knew somebody died behind it. I'm like, bro, a movie ain't that important, man. I'm like, it's just, gotta find something else. That's why a lot of the times where it's like, certain things can't be done. Like, there's rules and regulations when doing a movie, because it's like when people's lives be like getting in danger and things. I'm saying it's like it's sad. Stalking? Wow.
In the early 1960s, the prolific director Alfred Hitchcock saw bright young talent Tippi Hedren in a commercial. Believing that the starlet could become the next Grace Kelly, he offered her a 7-year contract, which she happily accepted. However, for all of Hitchcock's artistic acclaim, he had a dark side that Hedren became uncomfortably familiar with. The pair embarked on their first film together, The Birds. a thriller about a small California town that is inexplicably and violently terrorized by flocks of birds.
Was messing him up. I'm sorry for laughing about that movie, but it's one of those movies where it's like, I don't know, like, it's supposed to be like a horror film, but like me, I don't take no scary movies serious. Like, I'm sorry. I'll watch like The Exorcist. I remember thinking back when I was a kid, and there were scenes in The Exorcist that had me laughing. If you put me in a like movie like this and stuff, or in front of a movie like this, and you got like kids running, screaming, crying, you got crows doing like, you know, dives on top of, yeah, I'm laughing at this movie. I know I shouldn't, and I have like a weird sense of humor when it comes to movies, but yeah, man, it was one of those things, especially the scene which the girl, she like got stuck in the room and the birds started attacking. And I'm like, bro, like she very well could have just twisted the knob, opened the door, walked out, closed the door back, and then went somewhere else. But it's like this movie, it was just one of those movies where I sat down and watched it. I was like, man, she's serious? Like, come on.
While
now.
on set, Hitchcock forbade other male cast members from touching or talking to Hedren. She remembers him becoming icy and petulant on set whenever he caught her speaking to a male. Hedren often spied his car cruising slowly by her home, and once in the back of a limo, he forcefully tried to kiss her. After Hedren refused his advances, Hitchcock's behavior became increasingly difficult for her to handle. While shooting the birds, Hedren found herself in unnecessary danger on multiple occasions. During the climax of the plot, birds attack Hedren, and she was assured multiple times that mechanical birds would be used. However, on the day of filming, she was informed that live ones would be used instead. Instructing the handlers to tie birds to her costume and lob other ones at her as the cameras rolled, Hitchcock simply watched the mayhem. Terrified, Hedren recounts, "I was too focused on my own survival to notice, but I was told later that it was even more horrifying and heartbreaking for the crew to watch. And there wasn't anything anyone but Hitchcock could do to put a stop to it."
That's crazy.
Hitchcock's abuse of
Nah, bro, that should be like a law or something. I'm like, nah, you is not tying no live birds to me and having them actually attack me and stuff. No, yeah, throw like fake birds at me and stuff, but no, we ain't doing no actual real birds and things. I'm like, bro, you gonna have to let that stalker stuff go, whatever you got going on. But I'm like, nah, that ain't happening. That's crazy.
During their second film, Marnie, and he even installed a secret door in her dressing room to his office. After she refused to work with him again, Hitchcock held her to their contract, effectively paralyzing her career. For the duration of the 7 years Hedren had agreed to, Hitchcock refused to cast her in any more of his movies. 3 years passed between Marnie and her next movie, A Countess from Hong Kong. The film, directed by Charlie Chaplin, had her in a supporting role. Sadly, none of the projects she embarked on working with Hitchcock enjoyed the same success as Marnie or The Birds. At an event hosted by the Television Critics Association in 2012, Hedren stated, "There was absolutely nothing I could do legally whatsoever. There were no laws about this kind of situation. If this happened today, I would be a very rich woman."
Oh, yeah.
Hedren has gone on to speak publicly about the circumstances of her relationship with Hitchcock multiple times, both in interviews and in her book, Tippy, a memoir, published in 2016.
That's crazy, man. There's people out there. I'm telling you, that Hollywood scene, that's why I'm like, because I know there's there's going to be a day where I would like to get into movies, whether I'm acting or like, directing or writing a movie, producing, whatever it is. But I know like eventually I do want to get to that time, and I'm letting everybody know, like, look, ain't no weird stuff gonna be happening. If somebody approaches me and they're like, oh, this person, they tried doing this or they're acting like this, I'm like, you gotta go. I'm like, and if you come back, I'm fighting you. Like, so don't try no crazy stuff, bruh. I'm like, nah, it's stuff like that where it's just, there's people in Hollywood where it's all like, bruh, we're here to do a movie. We ain't here for this extra stuff, all right? And even like outside of movies, still ain't nobody there for that, man. It's like there are people out there. It's like you hear some stories about Hollywood. It's like, bro, it makes you not. I can see why there's a lot of actors out there where they kind of like try to stay outside of that Hollywood scene. There's some where it's like, they got clout and they ain't got to worry about nothing. But there's others where it's like, no, you hear where they be doing movies outside, and it's like, well, yeah, I can see why. So. Yeah,
When it
Poltergeist
comes to
has some
classics
crazy
in the
stuff.
scares department, it's pretty hard to beat the 1982 film Poltergeist.
Yeah.
The horror film follows the Freeling family as they find themselves tormented by ghosts in their own home. Although the movie is creepy enough by itself, it becomes exponentially more so once you've heard this. In a particularly harrowing scene, lead actress Jo Beth Williams is submerged in mud and confronted with skeletons. Unbeknownst to Williams and many other members of the cast and crew, those skeletons were actual human remains. As she tells it, "I was in the mud and goop all day, every day for like 4 or 5 days, with skeletons all around me, as I was screaming. In my innocence and naivete, I assumed they were prop skeletons made out of plastic or rubber. It turns out that fake skeletons would be far more expensive to create than purchasing actual human bones. And well, we suppose Hollywood does have to look out for their bottom line." Another moment during filming nearly...
I know. There is no way. The thing is this. You know, when I know that something is fake, like if they're all like, oh, we're gonna spray this fake blood on you. Okay, cool, fine. You know what? They ain't even tripping about it. Oh, we're gonna have it where this like prosthetic arm like flies across you and you grab it or something. Cool, fine. Ain't tripping about it. Oh, we're gonna have it where, you know, you set this mannequin on fire. Cool, not tripping about it. Oh, we're gonna have you in some muddy water with actual skeletons. That's where I draw the line. I'm like, no, I'm not getting in that. For one, I'm not getting in no muddy water, because I'm like, I ain't trying to get stuck, drown, die. Alright, second, we definitely ain't putting no real life skeleton. Where do you guys even get that? How is it that my thing is this. I would not want to be dead, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting down thinking like, I wonder where my body is at right now. I go and I'm like, you know, let me be a little ghost. So let me be a little spirit in things. I see that my grave has been dug up. I look down the street. They're using my skeleton for a movie. Nah, bro, that's some crazy stuff, man. That is some crazy stuff. We ain't doing that. I'm all like, the thing is this, we just can't do the scene. I'm like, we could have it where there's like some actors where it's like, it was like, so the whole plot for that movie, for those that have never seen Poltergeist, so the houses in that area, or I think it was their house, it was like built over this grave, so that's why they had it where those skeletons was popping out and things. I'm like, why not just have it where it'll be like the people that were buried and stuff, just have it where there'll be some actors and some makeup and costumes and have it where they pop up out the water. Why it has to be real life skeletons? No, that's crazy. No, we can't do that. No, that's some wild stuff. Whoever was behind that movie, no, you need to be arrested and put in prison for life. That's crazy. I did not know that. That's something I'm like, as many times as I watch that, another movie I'm gonna have a different outlook on.
Gotcha.
Like,
in the plot, child actor Oliver Robbins is attacked by a possessed clown doll. While shooting that scene, the mechanical doll malfunctioned, nearly strangling Robbins in the process. At first, when the child yelped, "I can't breathe," Steven Spielberg thought he was simply ad-libbing. It wasn't until Robbins' color began to change that Spielberg raced over to pull the prop off him, saving his life. This just goes to show that Hollywood isn't all glitz and glamour, and you might find yourself waiting around.
I'm telling you, all this stuff that happened. Well, I mean, there was some like the one, because it was with the oldest daughter. I know there was like, yeah, she just had like a crazy ex and things, but I'm saying I don't know, man. I'm fooling with some like actual dead people. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Pool of mud with human remains, all in a day's work, right?
Yeah, that's some crazy. I'm telling you, this story is crazy.
4 directors, including Steven Spielberg and John Landis, all decided to work together to adapt the popular 1960s
I knew they had to talk about
show,
this.
The Twilight Zone, into a movie. Unfortunately, on the last day of filming, the set was touched by tragedy. On July 23, 1982, at 2:20 a.m., actor Vic Morrow and his 2 young co-stars, 6-year-old Renee Shen Chen and 7-year-old Micah Din Lei, were shooting a sequence set in the Vietnam War. In the scene, they're chased by a helicopter, but during filming, the pilot was disoriented by the special effects explosions. He lost control of the aircraft, bringing it down right on top of Morrow and the 2 children. All 3 died instantly. Horribly enough, the children should not have even been on set that late. But in order to skirt around the curfew set by child labor laws, Chen and Lei were hired as extras rather than actors. Director John Landis, the special effects coordinator, the helicopter pilot, and 2 other men working on set were charged with involuntary manslaughter, although they were later acquitted. All 3 victims' families filed lawsuits against John Landis, Steven Spielberg, and Warner Brothers, and settled for undisclosed amounts. In the end, the scene containing Chen, Lei, and the graphic accident was understandably deleted from the film.
Yeah, so I think from what I had read, for those, I don't know, from if you did get a chance to see the movie, but from what I read, so it was the scene where when he was in the water and then the soldiers were kind of like looking around and stuff when they threw that grenade. So I guess it was, this scene was supposed to happen after they threw the grenade, and then he I think they say he went into it, like he fell into like a house, kind of like how he was doing all throughout the movie where he'll just fall in random places. But so he'll fall inside of a house, that's where he'll see the 2 kids, and then I guess like the helicopter was going to be shooting at them, he's running with the kids, and then it led into where I think another explosion happens, and then that's when how the whole situation ended off, where he ended up in that, not in the truck, but it was like, I think back at like that like Nazi area, and then he got put in one of those trucks and things. But that's, I think, when this scene was supposed to happen. But yeah, I remember I remember when my mom had told me that somebody had died behind this movie, and I thought like, oh, it was probably like some, random person. I've seen this movie so many different times because I'm a big Twilight Zone fan, and watching this movie, I never thought it was him. And so I remember I don't recommend anybody watching the video and stuff. Like, I'm actually kind of happy that they cut out that part of the video and things. But yeah, it was something where it's like, you see that, you're like, dang, bro, like they actually had captured that and they, for some reason, saved it. I'm not like, that's the type of stuff where it's like, no, it should be destroyed. And, I guess like, yeah, for court reasons, it might have been saved, but yeah, afterwards it should have been destroyed. But yeah, it was just, man, it was just crazy to know that. And I was like, for as long as I watched this movie, I never knew that he was the one that was behind, like, he was the one that got killed and stuff. So crazy stuff, man.
In 1928, Michael Curtis, who would go on to direct the famed movie Casablanca, was still relatively new to Hollywood. Eager to make his mark, Curtis's new movie Noah's Ark was billed in hyperbolic fashion as the most spectacular drama to ever reach the motion picture screen. Since it was meant to be a spectacle for the ages, Curtis wanted everything to be as realistic as possible, including the dramatic biblical flood. Though he was urged to use miniature figurines, Curtis refused and demanded a full-scale reproduction of the natural disaster, complete with live humans, animals, and roughly 600,000 gallons of water.
That's
the extras,
crazy.
Which included a young John Wayne, unaware of how much and how fast the water would be coming at them, erupted into a very real panic on the day of the shoot. The consequences were dire. Aside from multiple extras ending up wounded, with one reportedly having to have their leg amputated, 3 also allegedly died. The controversial scene remained in the movie, even though the fear seen in the extras is very real. The calamity could certainly have been avoided, and the event is credited for inspiring the introduction of safety regulations in Hollywood.
Nah, man. I'm like, if they telling me I gotta do this movie, but you gotta use actual people, no, what we're doing, I'm just gonna get like a bucket of water and just like stand behind the camera and throw it at them to give them that effect to look like they drowning and stuff. But I'm like, bro, we ain't gotta recreate a biblical story that much. So I'm telling you, there's some people out there, they gotta get their vision. And I'm like, look, man, I know what like YouTube videos like, bro. There is this like this intro that I had been wanting to like create, and I did kind of create it in a way and stuff. But I'm like, bro, if I don't create it the way, if my thing is this, I do what I can, all right. But I'm not gonna go overboard, over the top, and all this other. Yeah, it's at times where it's like, it's not needed. If it ain't meant to be, it ain't meant to be. So that's why I just think that, yeah, there's just at times people, they just kind of let these like these visions and how they want stuff to be portrayed get to their head, and then it's like, okay, people, they start getting injured and killed and hurt, and then you facing all these different lawsuits, and now you ain't got no choice but to work on all these different movies, and because you got to pay off all these different people and families and stuff. I'm like I said, it's not needed. That's crazy.
Like Noah's Ark, the 1925 version of Ben-Hur was shot at a time when safety was scant. Based off the 1880 novel Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ by Lew Wallace, the story is set in 1st century Jerusalem and follows the life and trials of a wealthy Jew named Judah Ben-Hur. The story is popular and was first made into a silent film in 1907.
I think they made a game of it, too.
There have been subsequent versions released in 1959 and 2016, as well as smaller animated and television adaptations of the story. However, the 1925 film was plagued by problems, including a lengthy and expensive shoot in Italy, which was under Mussolini's fascist dictatorship at the time. An ancient Roman catacomb was destroyed, director Fred Niblo mistreated child extras, and an elderly cast member nearly died of pneumonia. All of these on their own would make for a nasty experience, but when you factor in what happened during the chariot scene, it makes everything else seem inconsequential. To capture the famous chariot race between the titular character and his nemesis, Messala, a giant reproduction of the Colosseum had been built. Unfortunately, it was not equipped to properly handle horses and chariots, and after a few takes, ruts developed in the track that had devastating consequences. As the actors rounded the curve of the track on their chariots, one of the vehicle's wheels broke. When the hub hit the ground, it launched its rider, an unnamed stuntman, high up into the air. He fell onto a nearby pile of lumber and subsequently died of internal injuries. Additionally, at least 100 horses were killed during filming. Chariot crashes were common and killed many. But most egregiously, the second unit director, B. Reeves Eason, refused to allow a veterinarian to take care of the animals. Anytime a horse showed the slightest sign of injury, Eason ordered it to be shot. To top it off, none of the footage shot in Rome ended up being usable. It was deemed too shadowy, and the entire scene was reshot on a soundstage in Culver City, California. Sadly, the equine death toll continued to rise, with 5 horses dying in the climactic chariot crash scene. Despite the problematic process and massive $3.9 million budget, the largest for any movie at the time, the film was a success, and viewers were none the wiser about the hazardous conditions that had created such a thrilling cinematic experience.
Yeah, I'm like, man, people, again, if it ain't meant to be, it is not meant to be. The movie will do perfectly fine doing what you can. That's going to make sure everybody goes home safely, all right? Some crazy stuff, man. I heard of some stuff of this.
Few movies have quite as much timeless appeal as The Wizard of Oz. From Judy Garland's dreamy crooning of Somewhere Over the Rainbow to generations of children frightened by Margaret Hamilton's portrayal of the Wicked Witch, the movie, adapted from L. Frank Baum's beloved series of books, continues to dazzle. Unfortunately, the 1939 classic was riddled with horrifying experiences that make the film seem less family-friendly and more controversial over time.
I know they said it was all like one of the munchkins and things were, I think they said, like, they say you can see them like hanging, and I'm like, why would that even, that's some crazy stuff. But I was like, yeah. It's one of those movies where it's like, it deserves to be, even this, I don't know why this scares me for some reason. I'm like, it's just the way, I don't see no emotions, and I'm like, so I'm gonna just hurry up and unpause, because I'm like, look, it's late at night, I don't want to go to sleep with this image in my head.
Judy Garland, who was only 17, was instructed to lose weight for the role.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember hearing that.
And placed on a diet of chicken soup, black coffee, and cigarettes. The amphetamines served a dual role of suppressing her appetite and keeping her up for the grueling 72-hour-long shoots. In between shots, Garland and fellow castmates were given sleeping pills so they would essentially sleep and work on command through an upper and downer drug cycle. Wow. This habit haunted Garland for the rest of her life, and she eventually died of a drug overdose at 47 years of age. After her death, Sid Luft, Garland's ex-husband, revealed that Garland told him she was continually groped by the actors who played the Munchkins, saying they would make Judy's life miserable on set by putting their hands under her dress.
Yes.
The men were...
Yeah, and I'm all like, and somebody about to, I'm like, fam, yeah, I'm like, I look down and say, I am twice your size. Do not touch me, otherwise I will, like, I'm trying to think, yeah, I'm like, what, no, NFL, I feel like, well, no, when was the NFL established? I'm like, regardless, though, I'm like, I will punt you, bruh. I'm like, you at that range where I could literally lift my leg up and take your forehead off. I'm like, don't try that with me.
40 or more years old. Aside from her horrific treatment, the cast was continually put in harm's way. Actor Buddy Ebsen was originally slated to play the Tin Man, but he suffered an extremely dangerous reaction to the makeup, which contained aluminum powder, and was given time off.
I heard about that.
While he was recovering, he was replaced by Jack Haley. Additionally, the bright lights needed to film in color at the time were so hot that multiple crew members fainted, and actor Burt Lair frequently overheated in his Cowardly Lion costume. But the injuries didn't stop there. Margaret Hamilton was severely burned by a malfunctioning trapdoor that left her exposed to pyrotechnics, and her stunt double Betty Danko was also harmed by pyrotechnics in another scene. Furthermore, some props and costumes on the set were toxic. Both the Scarecrow's costume and the Wicked Witch's broom were made of carcinogenic materials, and the snow in the poppies scene was asbestos fibers. Despite how heartwarming the tale of the Wizard of Oz may be, it has gone down in Hollywood history as one of the most dangerous films to work on.
Dang. That's crazy. That is crazy. I did not, like, there's, I didn't know about all the snow and stuff and then the toxic materials, but it just seemed like, back then it was just movies, they got away with a lot of different stuff.
In 1980, talented stuntwoman Heidi von Beltz...
What was the name of the movie? No, I never heard of
In
that.
1980, talented stuntwoman Heidi von Beltz got a call from her then-boyfriend Bobby Bass. He was working as a stunt coordinator on the set of the Cannonball Run, just outside of Las Vegas, and thought von Beltz would be a great fit for Farrah Fawcett's double. The movie is a comedic tale of an eclectic bunch of car racing teams in the United States. The groups embark on a cross-country contest, attempting to see who can be the fastest to drive from Connecticut to California. Upon von Beltz's arrival, it became clear that not everything was on the up and up. She had been told that she would ride in the passenger seat of a car as it zigzagged through oncoming traffic, but the Aston Martin she was meant to ride in seemed wildly unsafe. The tires were bald, the steering was defective, and the clutch didn't seem to work. For the car to even get started, it had to be pushed by another car, and worst of all, there were no seatbelts installed.
Oh, nah.
The director, Hal Needham, had the car serviced by a mechanic, and then Bass took the car out for a spin. When he returned, he told von Beltz and the driver, Jimmy Nickerson, that the Aston Martin was ready to go. Nickerson expressed concern, arguing more repairs needed to be made, and the car still didn't have seatbelts.
That's
Regrettably,
crazy.
he was overruled in the interest of time. Once shooting began, von Beltz recalls hearing someone yell, "Faster, faster," over a walkie-talkie before the Aston Martin collided head-on with an oncoming car, and her body was thrown violently into the windshield.
Wow.
Originally, the car was supposed to swerve at the last minute to avoid the oncoming traffic, but the steering column locked, causing a crash that was never meant to happen. The scene was reshot for the movie. Following the crash, von Beltz was paralyzed from the neck down due to a severe break at her fifth vertebra. Doctors told her to prepare for a wheelchair-bound life, but von Beltz managed to stand unassisted after many years of work. She never regained her full mobility, but she was able to reclaim some of her physical abilities over time. As a result of the accident, new safety guidelines that mandated seatbelts in all stunt cars were released. She filed a wrongful injury suit and was subsequently awarded $4.6 million.
That's good.
Despite her injury, von Beltz remained optimistic and kind and was greatly missed by her friends and family when she passed away in 2015 at the age of 59.
Dang. That's crazy, though.
Have you heard any of these Hollywood horror stories before? Or is there a juicy one that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.
Yeah, I can't think of like no other movies out there where it's like, you know, there's some crazy stuff that was happening behind the scene. I'm trying to think. Wrestling, you know, I think there's I'm pretty sure Fact Faction, I'm like you could do something like, you know, dark stories within WWE cuz I'm no there's some crazy stories. Yeah, y'all could probably but like it's I feel like that there's probably more movies cuz I'm trying to think. Dang, man. I can't think because I've seen quite a few movies, but I can't think of like now. I feel like every movie out there, I can't trust it. Now I feel like next time I watch a movie, I'm gonna have to like look it up and see is there any dark stories behind it. No, okay, cool, I can support this movie. But there's a lot of movies now where I'm all like, bro, I don't know if I can support that. So, but yeah, that was a pretty crazy video. Shout out to Fact Faction. If you guys haven't, make sure you go subscribe to him. Thank you guys for watching today's video. Stay tuned for the next video and peace.